All right, so I decided I would record my thoughts instead of writing them down because it's going to take a while. So, first of all, the book is very short, like 140 pages. That's a problem at times because it feels like the author rushed. So, the story is it's this guy and his cousin go to their grandpa's been missing for almost a year. They go to his old apartment, which is his old puppet studio from a TV show they had years ago. Like, basically, imagine a knockoff Sesame Street. It's Sesame Street. It's just Sesame Street. Knockoff Sesame Street. Um, and so, and they had turned the studio into apartment housing for all the actors, like the human actors and puppeteers, after the show got canceled. Well, the grandpa's been missing for like a year. So they go to finally, collect all his stuff, clean out the apartment. One night, the guy's sitting there sleeping, and he sees like the main puppet that his grandpa controlled in his bedroom, in his grandpa's bedroom. He's sleeping in his grandpa's bedroom. He sees him there. And so he's like, hold on a minute. That can't happen. And there's nobody controlling the puppet. It's just walking around, and it tries to break the window and get out of the house. And he thinks, okay, this is a dream. Well, they look, and he sees the puppet go inside this wall. Turns out, guess what? There's puppets living in the apartment walls. So him and his cousin go inside, and his cousin's like, think of a Disney adult, super hardcore Disney adult, but with this TV show specifically. She like knows all these facts about it. She knows all the lore about it, and she knows all these urban legends about it. And it's like a big time fan of this show. Big time fan of some of these puppets and stuff. Well, they go in, they start looking around, and they find out that the walls are connected to the neighbor's apartment, which is one of the former actresses that was on the show. So that's connected or whatever. And they find out all that. He keeps going down. They keep going down. It goes down, down, down. They find the puppet that he saw in his room last night, and it tries to eat the guy. It's like, holy cow, what is happening? This is real. Because he thought maybe it's just hallucination. Maybe I was seeing things. No, they find the puppet, and then they eventually find one of the other actors. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but they eventually find another one of the actors that was on the show. Ron, I think is his name. Yeah, he comes in. He holds the guy at bay. And apparently there was another actor named Luigi or Lucio or something like that. I can't remember. Well, he died because they're all old. Like, this show was off the air for like 10 years. This is an old show. Like, all these people were there like maybe our age, maybe like my age, like our age, like 28 to early 30s. Like the guy and his cousin. So, this is an old show. Anyway, they find the animal, and he saves them because he says, and this plot point I don't think is real. I think it's dumb. And I don't think it's real. Basically, it says he's not wanting to attack the cousin because she loves the show. She's always happy memories of the show. He's wanting to attack the guy because he doesn't have fond memories of the show. So nostalgia will keep the monster at bay. This sounds stupid. And it sounds stupid when I read it. And I was like, this is kind of dumb. This is like 60 pages in. So we're already halfway through the book. It takes them 100 pages to get to the big thing. Also, during this time, by the way, they decide, or the boy decides, maybe Grandpa's still alive and just is living inside the walls. It just makes me think of the meme, I'm in your walls, I'm in your walls, I'm in your walls. So we continue. They keep going down, and they eventually go down, and they find the actual set of the TV show deep down in this apartment. Again, it was built over the studio. And they end up finding out that they just keep going down and going down and going down, and it just keeps going and going and going. And remember, this is supposed to be like a 2-story building on the outside. Maybe 3 stories. I think it's 2. I think it was 2 of a basement. Well, they keep going down and around, and they keep repeating, keep seeing the same things. They keep going. There's this wall, there's a studio, there's stairs, studio, stairs, studio. So they get into the studio, and they keep going around. They find another one of the puppets, and they eventually find this thing that's like a tube of like a mixture of human flesh and like felt, like you would see on a puppet. Like, okay, that's odd. Well, the girl, Brittany, I think her name is Brittany, the cousin, she touches it on accident, and her finger starts to turn into felt. Like her two fingers right here. So that was like, okay, this is interesting. The rest of her's flesh. And something else happens there. I can't remember. Oh, the monster catches up to him because the guy starts having bad thoughts about the show, and eventually they figure out the puppets are forcing them to keep going deeper. Well, eventually they find their grandpa. I cannot remember exactly. I think it was around this point. They find the grandpa. The grandpa's alive. Now, we're 110 pages into this 140-page book when they find the grandpa. So we gotta wrap this up quick. So they find grandpa, and they ask him, and the girl asks him about what is happening, all this. So apparently they added this new puppet toward the end of the show's run to try to, keep the show going. You see it happen all the time in TV shows. And the puppeteer was one of the executives for the TV studio, I think. And his son wanted to be on the show, or loved the show growing up, wanted to be on the show. So he was puppeteer for this new puppet. So he controlled this puppet, and apparently he wasn't very good at it. But he was also very crazy. Like he was a goth kid, and he was a real goth kid because they said they found him in the closet. They think praying, and there was smoke coming out, and he had a necklace on that he was like throwing, and there was blood on the floor. Well, he did some dark magic apparently, and he was controlling one of the puppets, and they had a studio audience full of kids. And he asked them, and one of the kids came up to him, and the puppet came to life and ate the kid. And that's why the show got canceled. Or like, oh no, it didn't eat the kid. It like morphed with the kid / ate him. It basically ate the kid. And I figured out like that's the entire plot. I knew that was the plot coming from a mile away. So, eats the kid. The kid's body is like half mangled and eaten. The puppeteer ended up hanging himself. Like the same day, like right after that happened. Well, the audience runs out, and somehow the studio executives get the kid's body, which apparently has been morphed into this puppet / eaten. I think it got morphed in together with this puppet thing. And that's what that tube was, because the puppet was like an O or something. It was something weird. Apparently, the studio executive, the guy's dad, after his son had killed himself, buried the puppet down underneath the studio. And because of the dark magic, made all the puppets come to life. And nobody knew this because they shut down the studio. Everybody was sent away after the show was shut down. And they told them, hey, we got apartments for you. And it's for all the actors and actresses. Well, they all come back, and the puppets just walk around like normal people. And so their job was to hold off the puppets and not let them escape. And, yeah. And so to do that, the Lucio guy, or Luigi or whatever his name was, he would bring like diehard fans of the show, send them all the way down to the lower level, and this giant mass had formed, which I think was the kid's body that had died and had grown. That's why it made this giant loop of stairs that kept going and going and going. Had made this giant mass, and so and they would take him down. They would eat them, turn them into puppets / eat them. I'm still confused between the turning into puppets or eating people. It felt like it wanted to do both, and it couldn't figure out how to do both, because it does both. It eats them, and it also turns people into puppets. But apparently, that giant mass was keeping all the puppets there and keeping them at bay. So anyway, the guy goes in, the old actress lady and the other old actor, they come down there and all this. The grandpa gets eaten by a giant frog. That's one of the puppets on the show. I think. I'm still not sure about that. I know I sound like I'm rambling here, but it was a weird book and it was short. And they kind of explained this part too. Well, the girl the felt has started to grow on her hand. It's up to her arm. And the old woman actress that's there, and the other actress, the other old man actress that saved them, he gets eaten by the new puppet that the kid that died controlled when he was on the show. He gets eaten by that puppet. Old woman has a gun, and she's like trying to chase them down to the basement because she wants to sacrifice them because that's how they hold them off from going upstairs to the upper part. Once a year, they go get 2 people and sacrifice them. I think if I didn't explain that well, that's what happened. So she chases him down. Well, she's shooting at him. Guy goes to try to find his grandpa. He looks over. His cousin's lying on the floor dead. And she has turned into one of the puppets. And the puppet's moving around. And it's pointing at him, hey, go downstairs. You have to go downstairs. We're going to burn it alive, this giant mass or whatever. He doesn't know that the puppets need that mass to stay there. So he goes down there, he burns it, it like explodes or whatever. And he realizes, crap, I done goofed up. The old woman actress, by the way, too, I think she gets eaten alive or explodes in the flames or whatever. This was like in the last 5 pages of the book. Well, then he has to run all the way back up top because he's getting chased by the puppets. And he realizes during this that the puppet that what he thought was his cousin had turned into was a puppet from the show, and she had deceived him. And this was a cool twist. I like this. So they use different puppets to show the felt growing over time on her skin, is what the puppets did. And he sees all of them as she slowly transforms back into what he thinks is a human up top. Turns out she was a puppet, and her grandpa was a puppet the entire time. That was a cool twist because it turns out he gets back up to like the very top level. And when he gone down, his cousin had turned left. He turned right or something like that. He turns the way she went, and he sees her being eaten by her favorite puppet. Like her legs are sticking out or her hands sticking out or whatever. And he knows, oh crap, she got eaten within the first 10 seconds. And there was a puppet guiding him down. So that was a great twist. I loved that. I was like, that's cool. But he ends up getting up top, and the main puppet monster and him kind of stare at each other through the doorway. He's standing outside the apartment. And the puppet monster walks outside, unabated, like he's not stopped, and walks across the street. And the kid just kind of looks at him and says, I'm tired. I'm not going to deal with it. And just collapses on the front lawn, and the puppet goes across the street and eats somebody's kid because he says, I hear screamings of a kid from across the street, the first of his many victims. And that's how it ends. So it's a wild book. I kind of like it. I kind of don't. It wasn't great. The ending was fantastic. The twist was great. It's one of my favorite twists I've ever read in a book. The fact that these puppets were smart enough to, 1, make a puppet grandpa, and 2, have a puppet that slowly has different types of like has the felt growing on her body. And she's been dead since the first 5 minutes of this book. Like, that's wild to me. That was an awesome twist. But I don't know. It felt rushed. Again, it's only 140 pages roughly of story. The guy writes like a 6-page epilogue about why he wrote this book, and it's good. It's about I miss my grandpa, and he wrote it because he's like, I was traumatized with the Muppets when I was growing up, and I miss my grandpa basically. And I get it. That's why you want to do it. And he says he's working on a sequel to it. And he also is like, hey, I'm a small offer, review it. And I think the guy's from South Carolina, which is cool because the book was made in Columbia, South Carolina. At least it was printed in Columbia, South Carolina. He has 2 other books. I might check out one of them because it's $9 on Amazon. But yeah, it just took too long. It took too long to get ramped up because they were just going down these stairs for 100 pages. And stuff minor stuff would happen. And I guess it was kind of like the setup, all this minor stuff you thought is actually important. Sure, I guess. And then it turned into, oh, yep, here you go. Here's Here's what happens. That's how it ends. Now puppets are going to take over the world, I guess. So, I don't know. It was good. It was fine. That's probably 15 minutes of your life you'll never get back. I'm sorry if I rambled, but yeah, that's the entire story of I Found Puppets Living in My Apartment Walls by Ben Farthing. I follow his name as Farthing. Not bad.